let's start talking about the kids who aren't ever taught.
Exactly. Welcome to Jersey Mat Chat.
15 years ago, Champion Athletes was established to help athletes perform better through better nutrition. And we do that by creating an individualized nutrition plan for each person that we work with to maximize their body composition and make them feel their best, both in training and in competition. So Champion Athletes offers individualized nutrition programs for each client that we work with. We start off by having them fill out a questionnaire about their eating habits, what they like, what they don't like, and how their family eats, as well as their goals. We go over the questionnaires, we get to know each other, and then we do a body composition analysis where we measure their muscle mass, their body fat, and then we build a customized meal plan just for them. And our meal plans look like menus, so they're easy to follow. They include a grocery list, and they're based around that family's eating habits. And then we support all of our clients through texting. So in between our appointments, which are about every 4 to 6 weeks, our clients text us their weight, let us know how they're feeling, how their energy is, and we make sure they're progressing towards their goals in between each appointment. If you're looking to bring your performance to the next level, you should look at your nutrition, and Champion Athletes would be happy to help you do that.
Welcome to another episode of Mat Chat. My name's Pete, and today we have the pleasure of bringing in the Kingsway Wrestling coach, Mike Barikian. Mike, pleasure for being here today, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So let's go way back though, before you were a coach, man.
Okay.
We just had Ahern in here, your old
Yep.
coach there and stuff. So talk to me, how'd you first get started in wrestling?
I got started, I think it was kindergarten or first grade. One of my, good friends from school wrestled, and his dad basically convinced my parents to sign me up. And I was an aggressive, physical young kid. So you had, if that's how you start out, you tend to have success when you're young that way.
Yeah.
And I just took to it. Unfortunately, it took me longer than most to realize that this is a highly technical sport. So, I was probably throwing headlocks a lot longer than I should have been. But
So your dad didn't wrestle or anything like that?
no, my dad didn't wrestle. My dad was a football coach for, gosh, I don't know, 30 some years. But, over at Collingswood, wrestling coach football as well. So it was around that program growing up. And yeah, I don't know.
For all our listeners, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Stratford, went to Sterling High School.
Nice. And now, when you were coming up, did you play football?
I did. Yep. I played football through high school. Was a quarterback, defensive end at Sterling. Got to kind of neat thing. Got to play against my dad on Thanksgiving every year because he coached at Collingswood,
cool.
and I played at Sterling. So football and wrestling through high school. A little bit of track, but not for 4 years or anything like that.
Back then, it was very popular to be dual sports and play multiple sports. Today,
Correct.
It's a little bit different now.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. There's a lot more kids that specialize right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. And you finished fourth in the state, right?
I did, yes.
Take us through that. What was it like back then?
I had a great high school wrestling experience. Both times, we used to have super regions back then. And I was in the same region with Lade Black, who was 3-time state champ for Absegami. And, frankly, like one of my goals was to knock him off, which unfortunately I was not successful in. So both years that I went to the state tournament, he had super regions, end up seeing him in the super region. So I make my way to Atlantic City my junior year, and then the Meadowlands my senior year in the losers bracket.
Wow.
And had a lot of wrestling to do, but had a good tournament. And, it's one of those things we preach to our guys, the toughest win to get on the backside is that first one. But once you get that first one, matches keep coming quick. You stay warm, and you tend to get guys who are dropping down off a tough loss, and wrestled through the backside of that tournament, and unfortunately ran out of gas in that last match. But it was a good tournament, good experience. My junior and senior year were the 2 years that we weren't at Boardwalk Hall.
Okay.
We were at the convention center or whatever it was in Atlantic City my junior year, and then senior year went up to the Meadowlands. I think they were in the Meadowlands for 1 or 2 years after that as well.
Wow.
But,
I didn't even know that. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You learn something new every day.
Yep.
And how did that, like football, wrestling, was you more serious about one versus the other, or?
No, I wouldn't say that I was. I think I took both of them, very seriously. Football, as far as like long-term potential, I mean, I'm 5'11", was 180 some pounds. Kind of the level that you're able to compete at after high school is different, relative to wrestling. And I think that kind of drove which one I gravitated towards. Also, like, the aspect of wrestling where you're responsible for yourself, and the work you put in, you can see the growth and progress. And I think that kind of kept me on that path.
And now after college, after high school, did you think about, so you didn't think about playing football. What position were you?
I did think about playing football.
Okay.
I was quarterback and defensive end. I did think about playing football.
Neither one was pretty good size-wise, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I would have had to have, I had looked at TCNJ because that was the only school that was going to allow me to do both. In hindsight, I was 18. I didn't know any better. Like, very few people are doing both in college anyway.
Yeah.
And then from the college perspective, schools I was looking at, like Navy just ended up being the best fit, or the best situation, particularly from like a financial perspective. Realistic, I tell people now, at the time, had Penn been free, I would have probably chosen Penn instead of Navy because it was closer. I didn't really know anything about the military at the time. But in hindsight, I would have made the decision that I did every time, and it ended up working out really well.
That military decision, going to Navy, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I don't sugarcoat this, right? Like, this was not an altruistic decision. I was looking at my options. I was looking at the programs that were there, academic profile of the schools that were available to me, and then what it was going to cost. And at the time, like, even with grant money, I think Penn was going to cost $25,000, $30,000 a year, and I was going to be responsible for that. So I said, "What the heck? Let's give this a shot." And it was great. It really was. I got down there. I didn't like it at first.
No one does. I feel like
that's part of it. But I think the bigger thing was the coach. When I got down there for my plebe summer, the coaching staff changed. So the people who had recruited me
gone.
They're gone. So now I'm there. I feel like I don't have a connection to anyone. You're already at a situation where you left home for the first time, getting yelled at by some people that I would never get yelled at in the real world, and you're dealing with that as an 18-year-old. So at first I didn't like it, considered leaving, stuck it out, got a new coaching staff in there. The brigade or the student body came back, got to meet the full team and get associated with the guys, and then it was really good from there.
How competitive is the wrestling room in Navy?
It's pretty competitive.
Yeah.
I mean, I would tell you, anyone who's been in a Division I wrestling room anywhere, I'm sure they're all pretty competitive.
But Navy just has that little extra, because I guess the military, you always feel
there's more that you have to do.
Yeah.
And I had a teammate who struggled with some things, kind of discipline wise, and they gave him like he ended up missing his entire sophomore year because they would not let him compete. And he came back his junior season and went from 157 pounds. He shows up in the wrestling room. He's almost 200 pounds, and he's huge. He ends up getting down to 165 in the All-Americans. And I remember asking him, I'm like you've been away from this sport for a year.
Yeah.
Like what kind of changed? And I remember him telling me that just getting it in his head mentally that all these other things that we do, like it's not a negative. Like, I'm better because I do all this stuff and I'm still able to get my training in and compete at this level. So I think the mental approach, and how you kind of adopt that is important. But yeah, there's a lot on your plate there.
Because I would imagine, like, you go to a school where you're, wrestling's a top thing at a D1 school and stuff, and you're going to be, the chosen person there. You're on that school. Your job is to be a great wrestler. But in the military, you have your other responsibilities as well, right?
You do, but I would tell you, you you can focus on wrestling at a service
Okay.
academy. You definitely, there's no doubt, you can go to Navy, and I'm sure West Point as well. And you can focus on what you need to do to accomplish your goals as a wrestler.
That's awesome. So how did this time in the Marines and the Navy shape you as a coach?
It's a good question. I don't know that I have like a succinct answer for that, other than to say that my time in the Marine Corps was it was phenomenal. One thing I tell people who are considering service academy, considering the military, I think everyone recognizes that we are a product of our experiences, right? And the opportunities that you have, and the things that you go through. And I can tell you, in the Marine Corps, particularly at the time that I was serving in the Marine Corps, and we were deploying and we were at war, the leadership opportunities that you have at 22, 23, 24, 25, you're not going to get those anywhere else. So I don't know characteristically how to tell you, oh, this is specifically what I took away, but I would tell you that, I definitely feel the challenges that I faced, the positions I was put in, the ambiguous situations that you had to deal with, collect information, make decisions, lead individuals, I think really helped mold me at a young age.
That's interesting. It's almost like a coaching clinic, because it really puts you in that leadership role. It's a good way to look at it that way.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to describe it. I mean, you certainly don't think of it as
Right,
coaching
of
at
course.
the time. But yeah, I think it was definitely helpful.
And then you took over Kingsway in 2016?
I think so.
Right.
I think it was
It's been a while, huh?
2016. Yeah, I think this was my 10th. I think this was my 10th year. So I don't remember if I got.
Yeah, that would be.
Yeah, I got
26.
hired
Yeah.
in 2016, and then so like went into the end of 2017, I believe.
Now, were you coaching before this?
So my last job in the Marine Corps, I was fortunate to go back to the Naval Academy.
Okay.
So I was there stationed there for 4 years. The 4 years that I was there, I was what's known as like an officer rep, which, depending on your background, you could just be support personnel for that team, or if you've competed and have a background in the sport, you can kind of be a pseudo coach. I traveled with the team everywhere, was involved there. I was not, in the room wrestling every single day,
Right.
but had a good relationship, was able to mentor a lot of those guys. And then after my 4 years were up, they were in a situation, one of their assistant coaches left. So I stayed in an interim assistant role for, I think it was like 8 or 9 months. Largely helped with recruiting, another season of travel, and got to do that at Navy. So that was really, really cool.
That kind of
to be able to get
preceded
back.
that. So when you got out of the military, you're looking to be a coach?
Look, yes. When I got out of the military, I ended up moving back up this way. Didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but had started investing in real estate, was focused on that. And, through an arrangement with my business partner, it was like, hey, go do this and see, how quick you can build this. So I came back up, was focused on real estate, wanted to get involved in coaching. And at the time, Clearview had been really good. They were coming off a good stretch. And shortly after I got up here, their coach had resigned. So I ended up reaching out down there and just said, hey, I remember I reached out to Keith Moreland because he had been head coach previously. He handed it over to Dave Tomasetti. Tomasetti retired or stepped away. And I remember reaching out, and Moreland got back to me, and he wanted to take the program over again.
Okay.
But he told me, he's like, hey, just FYI, like there's going to be an opening at Kingsway. So I ended up basically getting referred from Clearview over to Kingsway, and it worked out. It's been a really good situation.
Talk about walking into that room for the first time. You're a new coach, new school. What was it like?
So I will say, I'm not a teacher. While I was interviewing for the wrestling job, it was kind of a tragic situation that I was teaching when I was at the Naval Academy. I was teaching personal finance and introductory economics. As I was interviewing for the Kingsway Wrestling job, tragic situation, the was a girls soccer coach who, young guy, ended up passing away. And he actually taught the same exact thing. So during that interview process, from the first interview to the last interview, it went from, a coaching job to, would you be interested in teaching? Which I took that on. I quickly realized that trying to teach financial management to freshmen in high school was very different than dealing with juniors and seniors at the Naval Academy. So I was not long for that role, teaching in the classroom. But I was able to stick around and continue coaching. I will say, similarly to the classroom experience, when you're dealing with Division I wrestlers and even backups and third string guys, when you have a room of guys that are trying to compete at that level, stepping into a high school room is a change. But I was fortunate that we had a few really committed kids. We had Trace and Quinn Kinner were there. Mackenzie Bell showed up as a freshman that year. So we had a few guys that were really passionate about wrestling, and through them and through some guys that were in the feeder program who have been invested in our middle school, we were able to kind of change the culture, pretty quickly there. But it was a shock. It was a shock at first. Yeah.
I mean, you won a sectional title in year 1, right?
We did.
Yeah.
We did. I will say we were very fortunate with how that played out. One, we were in group 4 instead of group 5 at the time. And frankly, like group 4 South Jersey was not great. But I mentioned Mackenzie Bell. This was a random story, but little kid, 90 some pounds. I'm running summer workouts, just got the job. I'm running summer practices, and I see this kid walk by, and he stops and looks in the wrestling room. And he leaves, comes back, looks in again. So I take a break and I go meet him. Mackenzie and his dad had just moved here from Pennsylvania. His dad got relocated from Western PA for work. Mackenzie showed up here. Mom was staying back home with his oldest brother, Morgan, who was a senior, and his sister, Maya, who was a junior. They were going to stay and finish out the year there. Mackenzie ends up having a great career for us, ends up being a state finalist, had a very good freshman year. We got to, it was just before Christmas. Mm-hmm. And, the family didn't like being separated. And they said, whatever, Mom's coming out, and they know it's senior year, but they're moving to Kingsway. So Morgan Bell ends up, showing up and entering our lineup as well. And that was, like I said, we still weren't great, but all of a sudden you add another good wrestler in a weak part of our lineup, and we were good enough to win South Jersey section at that time.
Wow. I mean, right away in year 1. So tell me, what defines a Kingsway's practice when you're in there?
I don't know that I could say. I mean, practice varies depending on where we are in the year and what you're trying to accomplish. I would tell you that, I talk to my guys. The focus for me is always, can we outcompete our opponent? Period. Right? Like I want to see that from an effort perspective. I want to see it from a toughness perspective, and the way we're training should allow you to do it from a conditioning perspective as well. Now how we accomplish that at practice varies, at different times of the year, but that's really what I'm looking for. I want kids to be tenacious. I want them to be fearless. I want them to compete with everything they have, and let the result be the result.
Yeah, I mean, without doubt, there's that balance between teaching and conditioning, right? Where you kind of got to get them going and teach them that, but then also teaching them to get a little bit better at the sport.
Yeah, I mean, conditioning, like you're going to wrestle yourself into shape.
Right.
We'll do some track work to help with that, but it's not something where we're grinding kids in the room for the sake of
just
grinding them to make them tough. Like the goal is to wrestle, right? So we're going to wrestle and wrestle hard when we're in here.
And what are your non-negotiables in the room?
Non-negotiables in the room. Yeah, it's effort.
Effort, right?
Effort. Yeah.
And that's it. And how do you build consistency with that, right? So like you're in a room, you got this team, that's the hardest part. I always feel like. What's your secret for that?
I would tell you, I continue to grow at this as well. You talk about how we started, right? The first year, even though we won a sectional title, that was not a high quality team from top to bottom. We had a few guys that wanted to be good at this, and we were fortunate that we had more guys coming who fit that mold, and we were able to change the culture really quickly. And we were good for a while because we had that pipeline kind of coming in. At the time, I thought that would just continue. Just give me guys,
Right.
We're a big school. We have large numbers coming through our youth program. Like, we've got things going. It'll just continue to happen. Prior to this year, we went through a 3-year period where, to be honest, we had kids who came through our youth program, but we didn't have any kids we didn't have many kids. I don't want to say any. We didn't have many kids who were committed wrestlers. And no matter what I do or any of our coaches do or how much we want to be invested, if this is the third thing that you do, I mean, it's not a sport where you can have a ton of success doing it 3 months out of the year.
No, not at all.
So the last 3 years were challenging as a coach because it wasn't the standard we had set. It wasn't what we were looking for. And I go kind of two ways on this. One, I pride myself on the fact that it's a public school program, right, in high school. So not everyone has a goal of being a college wrestler. That's fine. You still have kids that this can be their third sport, and they can be a real contributor, and they can have a great experience here, and they can help the team, right? But you need enough guys that are doing the right thing and that do care about this, so that you can have that culture that you need to make everyone better. So, I feel like we now are at the point where we had another freshman crop come in that this is what they do, and I think we've started to see a change in that dynamic already. But I'm also now, I've become aware that, numbers are great, but just numbers coming from our youth program, like, who are the guys that want to be wrestlers? Let me find those guys. And it doesn't even mean that you have to be a superstar. I don't care whether you've won a youth state title or if you've barely qualified. If this is what you want to be good at, great. Let us get involved with you. Let us start this partnership and get you in that cycle. Because really, this is one of those sports that if you put the time and you put the work in, you can have a lot of success.
We had Coach Ahern on earlier, right?
Yeah.
And he mentioned that he was told it would take 10 years to become a good coach, 20 years to become a better coach. And your first decade, what have you learned the most?
I mean, I kind of what I was just saying there, right?
Yeah.
Like I would agree. I think I knew a lot, and here I am, 10 years in, having to realize, like, oh, I was pretty naive about this, and I just looked at it. I'm very thankful that we have a lot of great wrestling people in our community, and a lot of people that are contributing to our youth program. But I just thought numbers were going to be enough. You give me numbers, we'll turn them into wrestlers. It's like I need kids that want to be wrestlers. Not they need to be great. I need you to produce some kids who enjoy this and who want to be good at this, to help create that culture. So that is, that's one thing that I've learned. You talk about 10 years to be good, 20 years to be better. I think you have to continue to learn.
Yeah, 100%.
My first 8 years, Kurt DeWoody coached with me. He's now the head coach at Delsey. Kurt is an ace. And I will tell you with no shame, on the administrative side, my first 8 years, I did almost nothing.
Right.
When it came to match prep, I can tell you in those 8 years, I would look at lineups for like state finals, state semifinals.
Gotcha.
But besides that, it was just Kurt had everything prepped. We laugh about it. There were probably 2 mistakes that were made in those 8 years. One of them ended up working out to our benefit anyway. So he was really, really good at that stuff. When he left, I've also had to adjust as a coach, right? Like, my responsibility is the entire program. Finding assistant coaches, frankly, isn't easy when you're practicing at 3:00 if guys aren't teaching in the building. So I can tell you, I have had to adapt in my role as well. And based on what the rest of my staff brings to the table. So I've had to take on some of those administrative duties that I really didn't have any experience with prior. But that's what was needed for our staff. The rest of the guys brought different skill sets that I want to put them in a position that they're going to succeed. Like if what you bring to the table is that you're excellent in the technical aspect of this sport, great. I'm going to put you in front of kids and let you teach wrestling. And
Right.
I'm not going to try and force you to learn something that, that might be difficult for you, or there might be a steep learning curve. I'll let you do what you're good at, and I'll kind of fill the gaps around that.
Now, you've had some team success. You've had some individuals with some great success. What do you take most pride in as a coach? Like, what at night do you feel
Hands
about?
down.
Yeah.
Hands down. And I had a former. We're in Atlantic City. I had a wrestler, Richie Grongo, commented to me when we were down in Atlantic City. He wrestled at the prep. We had some great matches against him. We came out on top in a few of those matches. And he told me, I had to tell you, I hated you when I was in high school. I said, Richie, I've never met you before. He goes, I know. He's like, we just had some heated matches. I said, all right. He's like, but you know what? He's like, I've recognized it. All the guys that you had that wrestled on those teams, they like wrestling. And I was like, you know what? You don't understand this yet, but that's probably the best compliment I've ever gotten. And I would tell you, I think that's what I'm most proud of, right? Like I will never sit here and take credit for any of our kids' accomplishments or anything else.
Right.
I look at them with pride in where a lot of them have gone on to school and what they're doing in their careers. And I got, one of the kids I coach, I'm helping buy his first, house and investment property right now. And all those things make you proud. As a wrestling coach, I will say I'm proud of the fact that the kids who've come through our program, I think we've allowed them to develop and maintain a passion for the sport of wrestling.
That's great. What's some of your philosophies? Let's get into that. Like in the room, what would you say is your kind of your philosophy with the wrestlers?
We talk about out compete. Really, I want guys to impose their will on their opponents. When you talk about conditioning, and we've got some young guys, so I don't think the guys in our room right now have figured that out yet. It is a process. But we talk about conditioning and people think, oh, you got to run, you got to do this, you got to do that. It's like, guys, like conditioning is relative, So when I'm on a mat, if I'm in better shape than you, then I'm in good condition. But what determines that? So really, if you're going to win that battle, if you're going to impose your will, you have to make your opponent do more work in a 6-minute match than he's used to doing. Period. Right.
That's a good point. That's a really
everyone
good point.
looks at. It's like what Bo Bassett is doing right now is kind of crazy, and everyone sees it. They want to talk, machine gun mindset, whatever else. But it really boils down to, if I make my opponent do more work in the first 3-4 minutes of a match than he is used to doing, he's not going to be there for the last 2 or 3 minutes, right? I'm going to be able to impose my will on him during that time. So it's not about, I did all this running and I did all this wrestling and I did all this extra conditioning work. Well, great. If you just go out on that mat and stand across from them, in your stance and circle and don't have your hands on them, and you're not forcing them to wrestle you, really doesn't matter.
Right.
But yeah, I would say I look for guys who, I want our guys to impose their will on their opponents.
Now, how has your Marine and Navy background influenced your coaching style?
Again, I don't know how to answer that in a simple thing to say, oh, this is my takeaway, other than to say, I've been blessed with some phenomenal opportunities, both in the Marine Corps, like working in Marine units, going back and being involved teaching and coaching at the Naval Academy. So without a doubt, it's had an impact on who I am, and that's what I try to bring to the room. But I don't know that I could.
I feel like it would give such an advantage, though, because I mean, the things you've been through, the experiences you've had, building that mental toughness, you know what I'm saying? That's really kind of what wrestling's, that mindset is really what it's about, you know? And I would think that it would have some, definitely maybe you don't notice it, but I'm sure your kids do.
I mean, it's a results-based industry, right? Like you.
Oh, that's all it is. Yeah,
Like period.
Yep.
Right. So, you know, the different models, whatever you talk about, adapt and overcome, whatever it is, like you have to find a way to be successful. And when I talk about imposing our will on our opponents, it's exactly for that reason. You know, I can't control, and you can't control in many circumstances, whether you're as good an athlete as that individual is. But if you can get them tired, you know, and you can then go get after it and impose your will, like now we can try and find a way to beat this guy. So I would say, I think I'm sure it has been helpful, but I don't know like the simple phrase to say, oh, it gave me this or gave me that.
Let me ask it in a different question. When your wrestlers graduate and they leave, what do you want them to take from your program to remember for the rest of their life?
You know, it's not just my program. I think it's wrestlers in general. But the work that you put in to this sport, the results that you see, both the wins and the losses, I think they shape the way that you're going to tackle other problems in life. And I think that's why so many people who have participated in this sport, you know, people who've wrestled, like they love wrestling. They want to be around it. They want to get back to it. And they realize whatever it is they're doing, right? Like they realize in life that wrestling was very formative in their growth, in their youth, and who they became as a person.
In your experience, do you think New Jersey wrestling is a little different than the rest of the country or some of the other parts?
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yes. But I mean, having, and I can say it in a good way and a bad way.
Right.
Obviously, it's a very high quality, you know, the wrestling in New Jersey is incredibly high quality, but I think from a mentality and attitude perspective, there's definitely a difference in what you see from kids from New Jersey as compared to like kids in Western Pennsylvania, which is another area where there's outstanding wrestling. Some of that's the state and the culture and the you know, Jersey pride, bravado, whatever you would call it, but there's no doubt that there's really high quality wrestling in the state of New Jersey.
Were you a fan of a couple of years ago when they added the 3-point takedown instead of the 2?
I will tell you, I had an open mind. I didn't know. I thought it was kind of a dramatic change at the time. But yes, I like it.
Do you think it changed the sport a little? Because I mean, I know
without a doubt.
We did, right?
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we still have conversations about this, and there's no doubt when you're in a really tight match, like you got to be able to get out on the bottom. Yeah. But you got a 3-point takedown. Like, am I choosing bottom? You know, like do I have to go? If I can take this guy down, right? Like, maybe I don't have to go bottom, right? Maybe I can wrestle this entire match from neutral. So, I mean, just from that perspective, I think it is. I think it's led to more action. I think, well, you know, I'll wait to hear from the officials in New Jersey about how they, I know stalling rules were clarified or they're going to be emphasized. It'll be interesting to see how that is called this year, because that's one of those things that's already very different from, you know, North Jersey, South Jersey. You go to the district tournament, it's one thing. You're at the state tournament, it's completely different.
Levels. Yeah, it's always different.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but I think the 3-point takedown, you know, out of bounds rules and the way you call stalling are 3 things that really impact how much wrestling guys are trying to do during a match and how aggressive they're being.
Now, a decade in, what other changes would you like to see in New Jersey wrestling?
Oh, man.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
In New Jersey wrestling, you know, I think we were incredibly smart to have one individual state tournament, you know, and I hope that never goes away. and I hate all the conversation about, possibly separating, private schools versus public schools. Like, it's an individual tournament. Who cares? So I hope that never changes. I think we do that right. From a team perspective, from like a regional alignment perspective, obviously it changes every year.
Every year.
It's tough from a scheduling perspective. I know they think they have it. They think they have the best formula that you could have in terms of regional alignments. I would say that no matter what you do team-wise, you're still gonna have weight classes that don't make sense. So even when you spread out teams evenly, okay, well, 138 at this weight could still be loaded in this region and could be really bad at another region. I would love to see us go to 3 automatic qualifiers, 8 wild cards, and then similar to the NCAA model. Right. If your goal is to get the best kids to the state tournament, fine, I can get behind that. But let's set the regions. This is what they are.
That's it.
We're not doing, we're not shipping this private school here and this private school there. But we recognize we're trying to get the best guys to the state tournament. And if your region is loaded, great. Maybe you got 6 kids going at this weight. Right. And this other region only has 3 kids going. I'd like to see that happen.
Do you like the 5 groups and how you split that? Not at all.
No. I'm extreme from the team perspective. 5 is atrocious. Most people would say they want to see it go back to 4. I would tell you I want it at 2 public school groups and 1 private school group.
That's it.
Wow. Period. And I would tell you from a public school side, if you are a small school that only has kids from within your district, great. You go in the small group. The big group is going to be all the bigger schools. And then any school that's pulling in kids from outside their boundary, you go in with those schools as well. I think you would have those final few weeks of the season, you would have phenomenal dual meets every night of the week. People would be traveling and showing up, wrestling fans to see duels, wherever.
I agree.
Instead of right now, most of these groups, it's like, okay, well, the final's really going to be wrestled in the sectional final at North 1 or the sectional final at South Jersey on this night. You end up taking it to Rutgers and you don't have your best teams there. Yeah. And then you look at like the champ of group 3, champ of group 4, champ of group 5. And it's like, well, what's the difference? You're going to tell me based on enrollment, we're separating these public schools, but so-and-so is a choice school and they have 5 kids who don't live in their district that are on their team. So what's the school size impact that? And I'll be very clear. I think it actually comes across in this setting. I don't care. We're in a, Kingsway's not a choice school. The enrollment continues to climb and the building, we started as a group 1, group 2 school. So there's just a lack of space. We're never going to be a choice school. I have no qualms with the schools that are. I just think this focus on crowning so many state champs, who cares? Right. Crown 2 state champs, and the wrestling would be so much better. It would be so much better.
I was also thinking about it too. It messes up rivalries because then when teams get out of groups and stuff, you mess out, and then that's such a big thing in high school. Going out, you always had that school that you were a rival with and stuff. Yeah. And 5 years later, you might not even be in the same group as them and not be wrestling them anymore. Correct. That's difficult. What about PowerPoints? How you feel about PowerPoints?
PowerPoints, yeah. This is. I know this was a hot topic of conversation this year, particularly because in Group 5, I think it was clear that Southern was the team to beat in Group 5. Yeah. And they ended up as the 4 seed in the group. For the first 9 years of my career, I will tell you that I paid 0 attention to PowerPoints. I didn't care. It didn't matter. If we're good enough, we're going to win. If we're not, we won't. So we'll show up anytime, any place and wrestle. This year, I remember, was it Wildwood Duels? It was Wildwood Duels. I was down at Wildwood Duels, and the PowerPoint rankings came out, and Kurt the Woody actually texted me with them, and it was like, "You have the most PowerPoints in the state."
Wow.
I was like, "There's no way. Like, what are you talking about?" And I didn't even really understand how they worked. But I will tell you, if you go back a few weeks, I had a tough situation in a row this year. Like, one of our big rivalry matches is Washington Township, and I cost our team a match against Washington Township this year. It was a rough night for me, and I will tell you, like, I wanted that match back.
I'm sure.
So all of a sudden, when I realized where we were, I was like, wait a second, like, there's a shot that we could get a rematch with Washington. I don't care where it is. I don't care if we're going there. I don't care if we're 4 and they're 1. I don't, whatever it is, we want to be on the other side there, because I screwed this up. My kids deserve another, they wrestled their tails off the first time. They deserve another shot at this. So my whole focus, was how do we get opposite of Washington Township? So I paid close attention to it for those 2 weeks. I know people were up in arms, like, how is Southern going to Howell? Like, these two teams are supposed to be the best two teams in Group 5 South Jersey. This match is happening on a Monday night.
It's terrible.
This is crazy. Yeah. And we obviously were involved in that. So I know the conversation took place. What I would say is I started paying attention to PowerPoints at that time. And I think the system that New Jersey has is actually pretty good. I think it has been pretty good for years. What I don't think the casual fan realizes is, because New Jersey extended the season this year, everyone's numbers got inflated. Because the PowerPoints, they take every team's 10 best matches.
Okay.
And then in order to max out your PowerPoints, you have to beat, another team who has 32 PowerPoints. You have to beat them by a certain number of points. So we got in a situation where you have teams that, because we added a week to the season, now they have 32 PowerPoints, where realistically, if the season ended at 9 weeks instead of 10 weeks, they would have only been at 29, or they would have been at 30.
Okay.
So when you look at Group 5, we all maxed out. I don't think we've never been close to maxing out before. I hadn't even seen that. But I think there were all 4 schools. No, I know all 4 schools maybe Southern didn't. Maybe Southern was just below. But either way, it was like, this hadn't happened before, right? So I know people paid attention. They're looking at that and they're saying, this is wrong. Something's wrong with the system. What happened was, we didn't tweak the system to account for the fact that there was an extra week and everyone's PowerPoints were going to be inflated. So if you had taken that number of 32 or 30, might be 34, whatever it is, if you had taken that number and raised it, I think Southern would have been 1, and it would have shaken out similar to how it had in the past. Now, I will tell you, opposite, like this year, now they've shortened the season by 2 weeks.
Okay.
So it's going to go the other way. And I don't think people realize that. Now this year, it's going to be, there's fewer dual meets. The teams with those bigger, with your high quality wins, they're going to see a huge advantage in the PowerPoint system relative to last year, and even a significant one relative to when it was 9 weeks.
Well, I was introduced to this exactly because of the Southern versus Howell thing, and so that's when my first experience with PowerPoints came in. What I didn't understand is, any formula you have is never going to be perfect, because it doesn't account for a certain situation, like you're saying, the extra weeks this year. My thing is, wouldn't it just be, everybody knew Southern was one of the best teams, if not the best team in that division. Everybody knew them versus Howell was going to be one of the biggest matches of the year. Why isn't there a group that could kind of just decide that each year versus, hey, we got to have a formula and just that's how it works out?
So I would tell you, I think if you do that, you're going to have the same arguments as who's this group? And what are they deciding this off of? Because many times you talk about a situation that seems clear, well, many times it's not going to be clear, right? So when you have a system, at least everyone's playing by the same rules. They know what it is. Like, you can plan your schedule around it if you care and if you think it matters. And I would also say to that argument, like, I know I'm sure Howell and Southern weren't happy to have to. Howell in particular wasn't happy to have to wrestle that match on a Monday. But what the heck's the difference if it's Monday or Wednesday? It's not in. We know it's not at Rutgers.
Right.
So
right. Yeah.
Unless we're gonna fix the entire thing, I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying about going back to 2 groups.
Right. There you
Great.
go. Yeah.
Now, could you imagine if those type of matches were happening Monday, Wednesday, Friday, all throughout the state?
Mm-hmm.
It would be
phenomenal.
It'd be phenomenal. The wrestling would be much better. People would show up, right? It would be worth traveling to not even your local high school, but whatever the local high school is that has the big match that night. I think that would be great. I don't think I'll ever see that because for whatever reason it seems like, and not that anyone from the NJSA has told me this, but the perception is that they like handing out more, they like naming more state champs. I would just say I don't think the enrollment at your school matters enough to separate it into 5 groups. And then you also have the situation of, schools that are pulling from outside their boundaries. Does your enrollment matter? Does it matter at all? And then if you're a private school, who really cares? You look at Camden Catholic and as good as they've been the past few years, and like, why are you in the small division?
Right.
And there's nothing they can do about it. It's not that they chose that, but man, you got a really good team. Like, why?
Right.
Why do you not have a chance to go and compete against the other best private schools in the state of New Jersey?
And then when you name more state champs, though, it waters down that award.
Correct.
Man. That's the worst part about it, because then it's not the same,
Correct. And I will, being at Kingsway and being in the situation we're in the big group, right? Like, you got to beat Southern, you got to beat Howell. Some years it had been Phillipsburg, whatever. Like, you have to wrestle the best or second best public school in the state of New Jersey to win a state title. So for me, it's a no-brainer, right? Like, there are some programs that they have a run of team state titles, and that's a big deal for them, even though they're not claiming that they're the best public school team in the state.
Right. But
it means something for them. I would say it might be harder for them to maybe wrap their head around or come around to this train of thought. But I just think if you took a year and saw what the playoffs looked like if you went to 2 public school groups and how cool wrestling would be for a week and a half period, I would even say a 2-week playoff period, right? I hate that we go Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday for the team portion of the playoffs.
Right.
Realistically, with my team throughout the year, we're trying to get as much practice as possible. So I really never try to schedule more than 2 matches in a week.
Right.
Never want to wrestle on Mondays. Now, all of a sudden, you get to the playoffs and it's like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday.
Yep.
And I don't know. I mean, if you went to 2 groups, you could expand that thing into 2 weeks, wrestle fewer matches throughout the week. And then, the event that they want to host at Rutgers, it's not just going to be, it's not just going to be the fans of that school who are there to watch, right? You're going to get, you're going to get New Jersey to show up and support that event.
Without a doubt, man. I think that's a better take on it, in my opinion, especially excitement-wise. So let's wrap this up with what's next for Kingsway? What's going on for this year? What are some of the goals and the expectations?
We'll see. We're young. I talked about the fact that, now we have a larger group of committed kids, and when you have that, it impacts the culture. So we're working with those guys, right? We're trying to help them take the next step, trying to bring more guys into that group, and hopefully it leads to more success for everyone.
With all your experience and everything you've learned, for the wrestlers out there that are watching this, that are young, trying to come up, what advice could you give them to just kind of keep on this journey?
It's hard. This is kind of like the benefit of experience, right? Like, I don't know if this is the advice I'd give them, but it's almost like a trick, right? Like, as a coach and being in my 40s, I need this to really matter to them right? Like
Yeah.
it has to matter to you, because if it doesn't, you're not going to put in the work that's required, right? Like you're not going to make the sacrifices that are required. When you put in that work, like the wins and losses matter, right? So I get it. And I would never tell kids like not to be concerned about it, right? I try, and when they're competing, I try to get them to focus on how they compete instead of the result. But yeah, we want to win. We want to be successful. We want you to accomplish your goals. And whether that is cracking a varsity lineup, winning a state title, becoming a Division I All-American or an NCAA champ, world champ, whatever it is, like we want to help you accomplish your goals. At the same time, I would say like the passion for this, right? Like just your pursuit of this and your enjoyment in this process allows you to keep that runway long. If you're sitting here and you're looking at Jack's Forest and you're looking at Bo Bassett and you're saying, oh, I'm 18 years old and I'm not there, therefore I'm never going to be there. You just took your runway and shortened it significantly. Because there's a lot of guys that figure this out later, right? And take jumps later. And the guys I look at with the most appreciation, I would say, is you look at guys who are in their 30s and are still doing it. You look at, talk about Bassett, like you look at Joey McKenna on the other side. It's like, man, like there's a guy that loves this.
Yeah.
Right. Like everything he sacrificed and put into it. And I know he probably has not accomplished everything he wants, but man, there's a lot of appreciation and pride for a guy that's still out there grinding and chasing his dreams. And when it's done, you'll look back, wins, losses, whatever they were, like you'll look back on the work that you put in, and they'll all help you at some point in life. It might not have been what you wanted if it went the wrong way. But at some point in your life, you'll look back on it and it'll be meaningful.
And for those parents out there that are a little hard on their kids and all that kind of stuff, what do you say to those guys? I don't think
we have any parents in New Jersey who are hard on their kids. Does that happen?
Yeah.
Listen, I will just speak from my experience, and I will tell you that the most, I don't want to say successful, although that is kind of often the case as well. The kids who have demonstrated the most growth, 10 years I've been coaching, the kids who have made the most progress and had the most growth in this also had the parents who were like the least involved, right?
Yep,
Who were most hands off. And I say that parents need to be supportive. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes into trying to help your kids be successful at whatever it is, wrestling in particular. But I would say the kids who are allowed to enjoy this and allow the journey to be their own, man, we happen to get a heck of a lot more out of those kids than the ones whose parents are living and dying with every result. When Johnny feels different going home after a win versus a loss, yeah, that impacts the way you prepare and the things that are going through your head, prior to go out on mat. But when we have the guy that, I'll say it doesn't matter. Not that it doesn't matter and they don't care, but
right.
Like their life's not going to change.
Correct.
They're going home. Mom and dad are going to love them. They're getting a warm meal. Like their relationship at home is not going to change. Man, those guys, they will compete a lot more freely than the kids who are thinking about other things and distracted by it.
I think that's great advice. So everyone out there, definitely listen here. Mike, it's been a pleasure, man.
Hey, thank you for having me. Thank you for everything you guys are doing.
Man, I appreciate it.
This is a good thing.
I hope so, man.
Helping to put a spotlight on New Jersey wrestling, and a lot of good things going on.
And getting to share wisdom like you have with everybody else, which I think is important.
Yeah, I don't know if it's wisdom or not, but it's certainly things I think after 10 years, and if Ahern's right, after 20 years, maybe I'll look at it differently. But
hey, when you're over 40, it's wisdom.
Yeah.
Thanks again, man. Appreciate
Thank you very much.
Attention, wrestling fans, parents, and future state champs. This is your podcast. we're shining a light on the toughest high school New Jersey wrestlers and coaches who are building warriors one takedown at a time. Follow us, like, and subscribe on your favorite platform. Doesn't cost you anything, but it goes a long way to support the show. Don't just watch the journey, be part of it.